Once again, 360 Radio, 360 Entertainment, 360 Mix Show right here on BeatBreakRadioFM.com. We got a special, very special, did I mention special interview that we're about to have right now. We have, a lot of entertainers that we've talked to, from MC Shan to Kool Mo D and the Fearless Four, and we've also talked to Scott Schwartz, the man who played Flick as a little boy who got his tongue stuck to the pole in A Christmas Story. But now let's shift gears and let's turn it all the way to New York. We're going to go back to New York on this one. Love and Hip Hop, New York. We got the one and only Tara on the line. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Once again, thank you for stopping through the 360 neighborhood, sitting down, talk with us. One of the hottest names buzzing on social media, as well as, just not only just reality TV, but all over the entertainment situation. We got Tara Wallace in the house. Such a good day to have you here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for creating a platform for me.
Yes. And since it's so cold around this nation, we're gonna heat it up right now. With the
right now.
Right now. And let me be honest. Let me kind of whisper my wife. Like she knows I have Hollywood crushes. And when you had the short haircut and came out on the reunion show, it was reminiscent of the old school Tony Braxton shortcuts. She knows I have a thing for Tony Braxton haircuts, and you came out with the shortcuts, so I got a new crush, but don't tell nobody. But anyway,
but I think you just
I just told her. But
I had so much fun with that look. I loved it, and I guess overall a lot of people loved it. But there were some people that weren't ready for it.
Yeah. It was.
They weren't ready for that much.
But just seeing that, throughout the show, having the different style that you came out with that one, it was cool. It was like, she's doing it. She's doing it. She's fit. It was a confident look.
That's part of the fun part of doing, the show and having this lane to express yourself. It doesn't just come through in what's happening in your life, but also how you look. You get to play with that.
Right.
And you don't win every time, but as long as you're happy with it, as long as I have to remind myself, I looked at myself when I left home in the mirror, and I was okay with it. So if I was okay with it, then we're good.
And that's it. That's right. If you could appreciate who you are in the mirror, that's all that matters.
Right.
But like we saying, we know that you're now in the spotlight. You're in the limelight, so to speak. And I want to ask you though, being that you're a mother and you have two little boys, two great little boys, how do you actually, when the camera's off, how are you? And there they go. How are you able to?
There they go.
How are you able to balance, being a great mother that we see on, and taking your children at heart, and balancing being someone who has to, make appearances and shoot the show at this time? How do you balance that? Is it easy, or is that something that you kind of able to do easily?
A balancing is because you're a mother, there is that instinct that you have, so it does kind of come easily. Sometimes if you have, help, I do need help. I have a sitter that's, worked for me since my oldest son was 4 months, and he's 6 now. So she helps me out a lot. And, but the problem is when you actually have to go out of town. I'm not used to going out of town as much as I am now.
Right.
So, being at work in the city and I can just, hop in a cab or hop on a train and I'm home again. It's like now I'm in a different city, and, that's kind of hard. I talk to them on the phone, and the oldest one is like, well, it's like you never come back. You go away and you never come back. So, those little blows from him, those are difficult. But, I let him know, and I explained to him that, we have to do this because, you have to eat, and we, children have to be taken care of. And so, we talk about it. But, I absolutely love being a mom.
Yeah.
I never wanted children before. I didn't have children until I was 31, and I absolutely love being a mom.
Wow.
And
that's
and I love being a mom to these two little boys, and so I don't take any of that for granted. Whatever moment I can, whatever moment I'm with them, I try to make sure I give them my undivided attention.
Right.
Which sometimes results in people saying, you never answer your phone. And I'm like, well, when you have children, it's kind of hard,
right,
especially when there are moments where they just need your undivided attention and the phone just has to wait.
Right, and they'll remember that, being that, they're children who are growing up with parents who, have notoriety around the world, not only just the city that you're in, they have notoriety around the world, and that special attention that you're giving them, they're going to remember that, and they're going to honor you all even more deeply, as they get older, because you guys did take a piece of yourself and make sure you gave them that undivided time. That's great. Now, being that you're in New York now, and we all know that you're from Mississippi. Describe your journey from Mississippi to New York. You said, because I was watching the Breakfast Club interview where you talked about the fact that you're from a very small town in Mississippi. You got 8 brothers and things of that nature. So talk about that and how you eventually ended up in New York and from transferring from that small town situation to the big New York, which is like one of the greatest cities in the world. Like, talk about that.
Well, I'm definitely from a very, very, very small town in Mississippi, and where our house was located was just kind of like a community. So, but I've always known that I had to branch out from, and that I was going to branch out from that, move away, and I was such a Prince fan for a long time. I was like, when I leave Mississippi, I'm going to move to Minneapolis. But I would say from my my early teens on, I always knew that I was going to move to New York and pursue acting.
Right.
So that was kind of just in the plan, and it was already, I guess, I had been putting that out there into the universe, so to speak. So, I finished high school. I started at Jackson State University. Once I started at Jackson State, my last year, I was just like, what am I going to do? Everyone had already decided on what graduate school they were going to, and I hadn't decided. And I just kind of, on my professor's desk, it's always that one professor that's like, like a parent, and you're always in their office, and, all the kids, all the students are always hanging out there. But he would always get different, envelopes of things. So the theater, Crossroads Theater, had sent some information about interning. And so I called one day, and I wanted to interview for that internship, and that's kind of how it started. That spring break, I flew to New York and interviewed with Crossroads, and that was spring break. And then the end of the summer, I graduated, and the next day, I moved to New York.
Wow. Talk about pursuing your dreams.
Actually, I graduated. I turned in a paper the next day that was late. And then
wow.
I woke up that morning finishing that paper because he was like, you still didn't complete that paper, so stop playing. So I had to complete a paper. And then I packed, and I only packed my clothes, and I left, and that Crossroads was located in New Brunswick, New Jersey. At the end of that year, I started applying for graduate schools, and summer stock. I did summer stock at Vassar College that year, and then the next year I started at the new school, which is 3 years, and where I got a master's.
Wow, got your MFA. Congratulations on that. Having a master's in
fine
arts.
Thank you.
Yeah, and for all the
being in school kind of creates like an umbrella for you, so you're not just kind of kicked out into the world. Although New York is not, there are a lot of colleges and universities here. It's not like a college town where everything is, centered around, your bank account is for college students. Your first car is, geared to, a college student. So you don't have the college feel, but it's still that umbrella of school.
Right.
And, if there's no place else to go, the computer lab is open all night long. You know what I mean? So
right, exactly.
It's still like a safe haven in a way.
Right,
so.
Exactly. Understandable. Now, being that you moved from Mississippi to the East Coast, went to New Jersey, now you're in New York, is it safe to say that the majority of your family is still in Mississippi? Are you in, aside from, your boys, is there any other family that you may have on that side where you can get support as far as family is concerned?
No, my family, I don't have any family here. My brother lived in Princeton twice for like a year each. And I would see him often, or as often as I could, because he travels a lot. But he left, he didn't really like Princeton. So he left Princeton, and moved to Atlanta, and then he moved back to Princeton and moved to Houston. So, as of right now, I don't have any family here.
Right. Well, the people that watch the show and you know, and as graceful as you are on the screen and things of that nature, I think that your family around the nation is growing, and family around the world, to where you can feel comfortable if you have to go to this city or that city, to where you can say, you know, that I do have some, you know, I may not know them personally, but I got some family around here because they treat me real nice, and you know, they keep me grounded and whatnot. So that's cool.
And nowadays, I hear from my family so much. I have this one aunt that she'll just FaceTime me at any given time, and she's just, I just need to see what you're doing, and I'm just like, I'm not doing anything. Like what? You know, you just have to see. You know, like you should be very simple people, and if there's any change, you know, people are always concerned in any way, whether it's good or bad. They're just always concerned and want to make sure you're okay. So that's kind of how my family is now.
Right, that's cool. And for everybody that's listening right now, we got to set the backdrop. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to just jump right into, you know, talking to certain people.
Speaking of family, my aunt is calling me again now.
Wow, that's cool. Hey, Auntie.
Yeah.
From Atlanta, we say, you know, tell her we said hey from the ATL. But
Yes.
Yeah, so, you know, I just want to make sure I got a backdrop because everybody wants to know who Tara is and make sure we understand her, where she came from and everything, so we know who we're watching. And, you know, we got to jump into it right now. We got to jump all the way into the deep end. You know what I'm saying? Not even about maybe 3 weeks ago, we had the opportunity to, you know, we had Peter Gunz on the show. We talked to him, and anytime your name was brought up, I can say that he had the utmost respect, and he was very, you know, he nothing negative to say, of course, but I look at him, and I told him that he, on screen, he looks like such a great father. Talk about his fatherhood and his role in because I know he, you know, picks up the kids, takes them to school and things of that nature. How involved is he on a day-to-day basis when it comes to your boys?
On a day-to-day basis, he was very involved with our boys. You know, I expect him to pick them up and drop them off, and you know, the oldest pick him up for school, drop him off. Drop him off at school and then pick him up, and then, you know, in between that is spending time with the baby. So, you know, he's very much so involved in our kids' lives, and you know, it's so weird, you know, the one thing people always ask me, like, what thing that you wish that the show had captured? And that was, you know, when they started filming, Peter and I were in a bad place. So they missed, you know, the love and the jokes and our energy together just in general.
Right.
That was just never captured on the show, and you only kind of get a glimpse of that, right. I guess, at the reunion.
And it's funny because he actually said the same thing. I said, was there any footage that was not captured that didn't get across to the people? And that's exactly what he said, as far as the move that you all had from one place to another, as far as your living situation. And he wanted to make sure everyone was comfortable. Like they missed all of that, but they keyed right in on the drama that was escalating.
Right. That was, you know, obviously, I mean, you just can't capture everything. You only have so much time, and you have so many stories to tell. So I get that. It's just that was just kind of like the one thing that was not shown. And then you have people that, you know, that are tweeting and Instagramming that say, well, you know what I mean, cute kids won't make a man stay with you. And I'm like, it's not even about any of that. It was, or people say things like, well, how could you be with a man who cheated on you for 13 years or something ridiculous? And right. I'm just like, but that's the thing. That's why it's called cheating, because someone is doing something unbeknownst to the other person.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I wouldn't be in a relationship with someone that I felt, you know, had those tendencies consistently, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, this was a big shock to me, you know what I mean? And then it goes back to your own, like, woman power to say, you know, were there signs that I missed something? Was I so busy working? Because the one thing, living in New York, having children is difficult anywhere you live. But in New York City, I feel that it's extremely difficult, you know, because, you know, your living space is tighter, the rent is higher, you have to work harder, you know, you need 3 and 4 jobs. And, you know, so did I miss something in all of the things that I was doing to take care of the family? You know what I mean?
Right. Now, in hindsight, when it comes to Amina and things of that nature, when it comes to Peter managing her music career, I heard that you were encouraging him to manage her and do what you can to get her out there because she's an amazing songwriter. If you could turn the hands of time back, would you say, you know what, now, knowing what you know now, would you have not encouraged him as deeply to pursue her as an artist or do as
well,
much?
I think that pursuing her and not pursuing her as an artist was, I can't say that even if I had not encouraged him, that would have changed anything.
Okay.
When you're a woman in love and you see a man interested in what it is he does, then you encourage that because you are a backbone and part of the support system. So the one thing that, and it's so weird every time I say this, Amina, she'll make a face, but I watched Amina perform for like 3 years, and I remember her first performance like years ago at I think it was the Bitter End, a place called the Bitter End with her sister. And I remember having conversations like, oh, I didn't make the performance because I work at night as well. So, I figured out how was the performance. So this was like years ago. And I'm friends with so many of her colleagues. Right. This place where she works is a place where we frequented for a very long time. So if this is the place where he was frequenting and that was just destined to happen, so to speak, I don't think me encouraging him or not encouraging him would have stopped what has already happened.
Right. So
because as far as I'm concerned, there were still other things that should have prevented outside of me from that happening, and it still happened.
Right. Well, I guess you can't that's one of those situations where you can't dictate fate. It was going to happen eventually. It was just a matter of time, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, also, I mean, having the kids and then
now, if I could go back and start, teaching more self-control or self-discipline.
Yeah. Right.
I'm a big advocate of, in relationships, you always get to the thick of the relationship or the thick of love or the hard time where the honeymoon is over and that just happens. It doesn't matter what relationship it happens. It's just going to happen.
Right.
And you just have to be prepared to deal with it and dealing with it when you have one person giving their all and then the other person finding an outlet. It's just not fair.
So was there a point where you started to see that Peter, his affection towards you or anything started to diminish or it seemed a little different to where you started raising an eyebrow like, wait a minute, something's not right? And I know you may have...
I did. I can't say that I didn't feel that way, but you also have to take in mind when I was feeling that way, I was nursing a little baby. I was, and our son, I was nursing full time. So it's either I'm nursing him or pumping. I was working full time. That's just the baby. I still had the older baby. So it was just a lot, you know what I mean? So I found myself just doing for everyone and not having the support system that I needed. Now, I can't say that made me very happy. That probably made me a little bit angry.
Right.
But it was because I felt like I was kind of doing everything and not getting the support that I needed.
Right. And I can see how that can be a little frustrating, overwhelming, and get you to the point where you start to ask questions and try to uncover things. Now, when it comes to the kids, and when it comes to Amina, when it comes to Peter being married, and all of this, and she was quoted as saying that she wanted all the privileges of having Peter Gunz as her husband, and that included, and she said that she wanted to have a relationship with his kids, and 2 of those boys happen to be yours. I mean, how do you feel about the fact that she would like to have a relationship with those boys, and the topic of, confusing the boys and saying who is, Auntie Amina or, how do you, what's your response to that?
Yeah. Well, my response to that is, of course, the woman who doesn't have the children yet could say something like that. You know what I mean? I attribute that to, her youth and perhaps not ignorance as in dumb, but ignorance is just not having
just not knowing, right?
It, yes,
mm-hmm.
Just not knowing. So that's what I contribute that to. So I get that she would want to see my boys, but she has to understand the circumstances upon which she was brought into my life just does not allow that to happen, and won't for some time.
Right.
But I get her one. That's fine, and she has to understand that as a woman in my house and wanting, the man in my house, I didn't want him to marry her. You know what I mean? I didn't want him married to anyone, but he is. So I have to eat that.
Right.
So now she has to eat that because of the way things were handled. That's just not a possibility.
Exactly.
And you have to. not about being bitter or angry. It is about things can be done. Everything can be done in a certain way. And the one thing that even Peter agrees to is like, if we were in a bad place before I made these decisions, I should have done things differently. And I get that, being in a relationship for long periods of time, it's difficult. It's difficult. And people's feelings change, people's attitudes change, but you still have to address it. Just because they change and you're changing, it doesn't give you a way out to not address it and handle it appropriately.
Right.
And as far as I'm concerned, I'm like, I put too many years in here to walk away like this. We could have had a conversation. We could have said, hey, this is not working out. You know what? Let's take a break.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I hate to use this as an example, but this Beyonce song, and she was like, if we are to be, then we're taking this too far, and that's how I feel. Like if we are to be, and if we are to continue, then we took the negative way too far, and now it has got us here.
Wow. Because it's common knowledge that people who are in relationships for long periods of time, they fall in and out of love constantly. You know what I'm saying? It just depends on,
right.
So maybe that like you said.
And Peter, right. And he says all the time, why doesn't you love me? And I said to him, I told Peter, the problem is that you have to look at some point, you have to go beyond the words, and you have to look at my actions. So, sure, I was young and experienced. That's what women do. And I'm sure any man you talk to this situation about will tell you that his wife or significant other yells at him too. I mean, you have to look at my actions. So this is not a result of my feelings to you. This is a result of your feelings to me. And that is the very difficult part for me to accept. Right.
And I can understand that as well. And being in a relationship, let's say 13, 14, 15 years, Amina was asked the question, do you fear becoming like or being the Tara in that amount of time? She said, I'm already here. I mean, respond to that. Like, I don't know if we can take that as a jab or as like, okay, well, Peter's doing what he did.
I didn't take it as a jab. I took it as on some level, the thing about women is we always have to learn the lesson. It doesn't matter if we have to learn the lesson when we get older or when we get younger. We have to learn the lesson. And we all ultimately get to the lesson that we are supposed to learn. So I feel like that was her getting closer to the lesson that she is to learn about life and women and how this all happened. And, for a man to go to you and say, well, I was unhappy. You know what I mean? So what do you do when he tells you he's unhappy? Is it okay for him to go and cheat and him to go and do things? Or he would say, no, let's work it out.
Right.
She would say, hey, no, don't do that. Let's work it out if you're unhappy. What can I do?
Right.
So, I think that she's saying that because, she's seeing a side of him that she had not seen. And the one thing, if a man has an outlet, the one thing that he doesn't want the outlet to see is anything but good, because he wants her to continue to be the outlet and whatever he has to do, I feel, to create that outlet so that things are constantly copacetic and chilled there.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's going to do.
Right.
So I believe that, through seeing some of the things that I was going through, perhaps she was able to understand and say, hey, you know what I mean, I'm also experiencing some of those things, and I haven't done anything, and I don't know why I'm experiencing these things.
Right, right. And
so I didn't take it as a jab at all. I took it as, at the end of the day, I don't dislike Amina. I say all the time, I do think she's talented. And you have to understand, so to know someone for a long time, or know of them, and never have a bad feeling about them, and then all of a sudden you have a bad feeling about them, it doesn't make me happy. It's just,
Yeah, yeah.
And then you begin to tell this person, like, you're not in competition with me. You know what I mean? You're in competition with yourself. Like, I think sometimes that's how I feel the energy toward her, is that there's like some type of competition to show the other who he is in his life. And I'm just like, no, I've let go. There's no competition.
Yeah. Right.
My relationship or lack of with Peter is not based around you in any way. This situation has gone too far, whether it was you or someone else. Now I have to step back and take care of myself.
Right. And I have to say that there was a little, when I was watching I'm not sure exactly which episode it was during the season, but there was a scene where in the studio, it was you, Amina, and Peter, and you guys got into kind of a minor heated argument or discussion, and then you walked out and you made a statement as you left as far as what you're doing. What you and Peter, like there was a little confusion. Like, is she letting go, or is she still throwing it out there that
Well, you have to okay. in saying that, you have to understand that, well, while we were filming, a lot of these things were still extremely new. It wasn't like there had been lots of times that had passed, so here I am in love with this man that I just found out is married. So I can't say I'd let go cold turkey,
Right.
That's 13 years. So, and so when I originally arrived that day to the studio, it was all in, I had the conversation with Kay Michelle, and it was, listen to what she has to say. And that was the first time I was like, you're right, I never thought to listen to what she had to say. Because, after the wedding and the blow and all of that, I'd never thought to do that. So I was like, you're right, let me listen to what she has to say so that I can hear and not be angry.
Right.
And that was my intention that day. But it seemed to me, because Peter was there, she had a set of bigger cojones that day, I guess. She felt a little bit more secure in having the So that's why it ended up there, because I said to her, I said, listen, we're going to get to you. He and I are having this conversation. We're going to move on to you. Like, I'm not ignoring you. I'm not just trying to fight about our past. But, there are a lot of things that have to be revealed here. And just as a woman, relate to me. Can you imagine, Amina, being with a man for this long, and he randomly, on national TV finding out that he's married? Just for 1 second, relate to me as a woman, and then you could understand where, I'm coming from. And the fact that you even felt that was your place to tell me.
Right. And speaking of that particular situation, that segues into the other situation where it seemed as though you wanted to sit down. You came in with Rich Dollars and the young lady that was there, and then Amina was there. It was like, I want to see how long Tara was going to hold her cool when I can tell the conversation was getting even more and more escalated. Then finally, the ultimate happens. She pulls out the license, and then you went off. Talk about your thoughts in that moment, because leading up to that particular moment, you kept your cool. You were very articulate. You were visibly upset, getting irritated, but you kept your cool until the moment where it was like, oh, this is official. She has Panky as her last name. I'm going to go, and then you snapped. Talk about that particular moment where you
I wish I
couldn't
could
hold
talk
your
about
cool.
that moment in depth, but I don't remember that moment. I completely, and that's the one thing that people don't understand, is I completely blacked out in that moment. I don't remember. When I go back and I look at that scene, I don't remember anything of it other than me picking up the ID. And once I picked up the ID, that's as far as I can remember.
Wow. Yeah. Well, it was something that was understandable. Like the aggression and the reaction that you showed was very understandable in that situation, because the way that it happened, it was not. It seemed like it was a little off kilter as far as the way that was presented. And Rich Dollars and he was looking down like, oh, here we go, it's about to jump off. You know what I'm saying? And it was. Because
I don't think anyone knew, how that was going to turn out. But on top of that, it was just the way. It's just the way it's handled. Like, again, it's like one of those moments where, okay, at some moment you have to say to yourself, like, something's not right here. And, okay, so the information that I have to deliver is obviously important because I have this ID in my bra. So this woman has no idea. You know what I mean?
Right.
I have this in my bra. So this must be the what we're here for. So you have to, at some point, just as a person, you have to use a better judgment. But, that scene could have ended up differently, I guess, if she had, I guess in that moment she was like, well, I'm his wife and I can do and say whatever I want. And I'm sitting here and it's still unbeknownst to me that that's even going on. So it's like, what are you talking about?
Right. You were still saying,
it's not a moment I'm proud of. I don't condone violence, but I do have to say that,
you're human.
I'm human, and that's not a scene I regret. That's not something I regret because of the way it was presented to me.
And you're coming from a more authentic place, I would say. As a viewer watching that, you have kids, and you have history, and then you have this other young lady who's, she's an entertainer. She's getting with someone who's had success in the past, and it's like, I'm with him now, and she's kind of like nana, as opposed to being a mother.
But then you have to, and then also, not to cut you off there, also in my defense is that, if Peter was still living at home. Because everybody always says, well, how could you sleep with a man, married to someone? I'm like, because he still lived at home. Right. It wasn't like, there was a marriage and a wedding and he immediately moved out or he moved out. It was like we were still functioning as a house. You know what I mean? Was he hanging out a little bit more? Absolutely. But, the one thing that was never asked me is, what does Peter say he's doing when he's hanging out? And I'm like, he's saying that he's working. You know what I mean? So who am I to question a musician working when he has, perhaps not in the best place? As artists feed off of when they are successful or when they are constantly creating. Right. I'm also an artist,
Right.
So I get that. So I was trying to have a little bit more patience and take on, more of the serious stuff because I felt like I was a stronger person.
Right. And definitely visually, it did look like you were. As we wrap up, I want to just throw two more situations out there when as far as the Nick Cannon episode where Peter was talking to Nick Cannon and he advised him that, you need to choose and ride with the young lady who's been standing by you, and he chose Amina over Tara. It was a little shocking that happened like that.
Yeah, that was quite shocking that happened like that. But whatever it is, I just have to accept that there is something there, obviously, and there's just nothing I can do about it. Yeah. And as hard as that is for me to accept, and as hard as that is for me to say, wait a minute, but we had this amazing relationship, and it hasn't been perfect, but we had a bond, and that's what I was holding on to. I would say that you put these deposits into a relationship, and that's all the good years when it's funny and there's no drama. You're making all these deposits because you think that that person is going to remember that when you need it the most, and when you need it the most is when you were down. So when he needed it the most, and let me just say that as a woman, could I have said, oh, this guy wants to pay my student loans off, and he wants to take me to dinner, and he wants to do this, and he wants to do that for me, so I don't have to work so hard? I say, no, I have a family. This is my commitment. There's no shame in that. My household functions the way it functions. That's my business.
Right.
So in saying that, I'm saying that is the sacrifice I made.
Wow.
To not walk away when things were not the way they should have been.
Right. And that's a testament to your poise and your grace and your class and your maturity as a woman to deal with that situation in the face of what we would call a little bit of adversity, and keeping your children and your family at the forefront of your thoughts and the moves that you make. So shout out to Tara for that. And as we wrap up, shout out to Sam Ash. You know what I'm saying? Sam Ash. Shout out to Sam Ash. That's one of my favorite stories.
I could walk into Sam Ash to this day, and I still have a Sam Ash family. I love Sam Ash. I love everybody who works with Sam Ash. Just so many people, and to this day, one of the old managers, Mark Wasserman, every time Girl Scout season is in, I'm like, I have to find Mark's email. I need my Girl Scout cookies,
Yeah.
Although I'm sure his daughters are much older now. But, Sam Ash was like where, it's like my home. And I didn't know anything about recording, pro audio, keyboards, DJs. I didn't know anything about any of it. But I worked there for like 3 years. And I met so many people there.
That's cool. And give me one comment on what I'm about to say. Dirty feet.
What'd you say?
Dirty feet.
Wash them.
And everybody,
just wash them.
Yeah, everybody knows about that episode. And I feel, Peter, you know what I'm saying? You in the backyard, you playing with your kids. They capturing the footage live on TV. You don't have time to go wash up. Just hit, say record and it's on. So shout out to the dirty feet, man. But
shout out to the dirty feet. It's funny. No, I have to always say, I always feel the need to take up for Peter in this situation. Peter's like one of the cleanest guys I know.
Right.
And so I'm just like, you know what? The one thing that you definitely hone and take pride in, and you just let it go to waste because you didn't listen to me in that one moment. It's like you have to think back to your mother. Has your mother ever guided you wrong? No. So I'm like, Listen to me. I'd never guide you wrong. No matter what the situation is, I would never guide you wrong. You'd have to get there on your own. So if I tell you to wash your feet, and he's like, you know what? I should have listened. I'm like, well, now you know.
Yeah. So as we wrap up, just give the listeners out here in the ATL on this snowy afternoon that's been heated up. Since we've been on the line, a lot of the snow has melted because we've been on this line with such a hot interview. Just shout out your Twitter and places that people can find you, and if you're making any appearances or anything of that nature.
Listen, first of all, I'm so angry with Atlanta right now. I haven't had one appearance in Atlanta. I'm starting to feel some kind of way. I'm a Southern Belle. I'm like one of the few girls on the show in New York that's a Southern Belle. And no, one college, university. I went to an HBCU. No one
All right. Well, you know what? Remember the
has
name.
called me as of yet for Atlanta, so I need Atlanta to get on their job.
We're going to jump on it. And remember the name DJ 360. We're going to make that happen.
Yes. And then also, you know, I got my blue check yesterday, so I'm official now, I guess. Everybody keeps asking me. I'm like, you know, I don't know when the blue check comes. I don't know how to get the blue check.
Right.
I never even thought about the blue check. But it's Tara Nasha W. People think that Tara, my name is pronounced Tara Nasha, but it's just Tara Nasha and my first initial of my last name, W.
Okay.
So Tara Nasha W.
All right, cool.
On Twitter and Instagram.
And shout out to Tara Wallace. I'm up here stuttering, but shout out to you. Thank you again for coming through and hanging out with the 360 Mix Show. And like I said, look forward to coming to the ATL. I'm gonna try to make some calls to see if we can get you down here, make some appearances at some of these colleges and clubs and things of that nature. I see you doing it big on the club scene, making appearances here and there. Keep doing your thing. We support you in the ATL. Even though you haven't gotten down here yet to make appearance, we still support you, and we look forward to you getting out here.
Thank you.
And we look forward to you doing big things. I understand that you are, you know, having a part in the play with coming up. But anyway, it may be inaccurate information.
Yes, Caught Up and Confused.
Yeah, Caught Up and Confused.
That's March 14th, 15th, and that is in Detroit. So I'm so excited about that. I love Detroit anyway. Detroit was my very first speaking competition. So to go back and do my first big play in Detroit, like I can't even wait to talk about that and even write about that, by the way.
Right. I will be looking out for that. And once again, this is DJ 360 on the 360 Mix Show, BeatBreakRadioFM.com, sitting down with Tara Wallace. Love and Hip Hop is going down. Peace.